top of the day, beautiful people. Hold on, Sam. I need to delete something. Let's delete these previous videos. Okay, let's just store up some space. Free up some space. Okay. Free my head. Okay. See if this works. I'm trying to get YouTube on, y'all. Hold on. Okay. Go live. Live. Okay, y'all. Sorry. I had to clear some space for YouTube to come up. I don't know why. Because it's web-based. I don't know. Robert. That's Wabu. Shalom. Shalom. Yes. Okay. There we go. Boom. Let's see. If it ain't one thing. Alright, beautiful people. We are live in both places now. I'll put my stuff out my bag since I should have done that already. Alright, y'all. Time is passing fast. We already at Thursday. Lord blessings. Y'all, oh, I didn't do that. I don't be ignoring y'all doing a live, but sometimes your comments are not showing up on Facebook. I don't know why. Okay, y'all. So, happy Thursday. It is October the 7th, 2021, day 272 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 3-year consecutive day count, day 941. Today, y'all, we're reading Job 16, 17, and 18, and we're picking up where we left off at yesterday in Caesar's Messiah. Do we end chapter 9? Hold on. I think we ended the chapter. I think we're starting chapter 10. No? Wait. We sure did. I just didn't move my little sticker. That's right. Okay, that's right. And we start in chapter 10 today. The authors of the New Testament, page 265. 265. All right, so forgive me for that. All right, Tootie, can you take your car through there? Try not to be so loud with it. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the Shema, which is found in, y'all know, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 3, starting at verse 3, all the way to the end of the chapter, but I just kind of pulled out the meat and potatoes from it, so we can get right to it. Shema. Dream Sky Lover, good morning, good morning. Come on. Okay, there we go. We'll back to the top. Okay. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hands, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. Let's hop right to it. Job chapter 16. Job chapter 16. Job's fifth speech, a response to Eliphaz. Tiffany, hey girl, hey. Shayla, hey girl, hey. Okay. Then Job spoke again. I have heard all this before. What miserable comforters you are. Won't you ever stop blowing hot air? What makes you keep on talking? I could say the same things if you were in my place. I could spout off criticism and shake my head at you. But if it were me, I would encourage you. I would try to take away your grief. Instead, I suffer if I defend myself, and I suffer no less if I refuse to speak. Oh Yah, you have ground me down and devastated my family. As if to prove I have sinned, you reduce me to skin and bones. My gaunt flesh testifies against me. Yahuwah hates me and angrily tears me apart. The volume is low. I got it up. Check yours. Check it again. I'm sorry. I don't know, but my volume is all the way up. It might be yours. Or it could just be Facebook. Okay. Yahuwah hates me and angrily tears me apart. He snaps his teeth at me and pierces me with his eyes. People jeer and laugh at me. They slap my cheek in contempt. A mob gathers against me. Yahuwah has handed me over to sinners. He has tossed me into the hands of the wicked. I was living quietly until he shattered me. He took me by the neck and broke me in pieces. Then he set me up as his target, and now his archers surround me. His arrows pierce me without mercy. The ground is wet with my blood. Again and again he smashes against me, charging at me like a warrior. I wear a burlap to show my grief. My pride lies in the dust. My eyes are red with weeping. Dark shadows encircle my eyes. Dark shadows circle my eyes. Yet I have done no wrong, and my prayer is pure. O earth, do not conceal my blood. Let it cry out on my behalf. Even now my witness is in heaven. My advocate is there on high. My friends scorn me, but I pour out my tears to Yahuwah. I need someone to mediate between Yahuwah and me, as a person mediates between friends. For soon I must go down that road from which I will never return. Next chapter, Job chapter 17. Good afternoon. Well, good afternoon, Jerry and friends. It's morning here. I think you're in the UK, right, Jerry? If I remember correctly. I think Jerry's in the UK. We're here in Chesapeake, Virginia. Excuse me. Job chapter 17. Job continues to defend his innocence. My spirit is crushed, and my life is nearly snuffed out. The grave is ready to receive me. I am surrounded by mockers. I watch how bitterly they taunt me. You must defend my innocence, O Yah, since no one else will stand up for me. You have closed their minds to understanding, but do not let them triumph. They betray their friends for their own advantage, so let their children faint with hunger. Yahuwah has made a mockery of me among the people. They spit in my face. My eyes are swollen with weeping, and I am but a shadow of my former self. The virtuous are horrified when they see me. The innocent rise up against the godly. The righteous keep moving forward, and those with clean hands become stronger and stronger. As for you all, come back with a better argument, though I still won't find a wise man among you. My days are over. My hopes have disappeared. My heart's desires are broken. These men say that the night is day. They claim that the darkness is light. What if I go to the grave and make my bed in darkness? What if I call the grave my father and the maggot my mother or my sister? Where then is my hope? Can anyone find it? No. My hope will go down with me to the grave. We will rest together in the dust. Last chapter for the day, Job chapter 18. Auntie Belinda Brown. Shalom, shalom. How's the volume, Shayla? Did it come up? Bildad's second response to Job. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, how long before you stop talking? Speak sense if you want us to answer. Do you think we are mere animals? Do you think we're stupid? You may tear out your hair in anger, but will that destroy the earth? Will it make the rocks tremble? Surely the light of the wicked will be snuffed out. The sparks of their fire will not glow. Their light, stop boy, the light in their tent will grow dark. The lamp hanging above them will be quenched. The confident stride of the wicked will be shortened. Their own schemes will be their downfall. The wicked walk into a net. They fall into a pit. A trap grabs them by the heel. A snare holds them tight. A noose lies hidden on the ground. A rope is stretched across their path. Terrors surround the wicked and trouble them at every step. Hunger depletes their strength, and calamity waits for them to stumble. Disease eats their skin. Death devours their limbs. They are torn from the security of their homes and are brought down to the king of terrors. The homes of the wicked will burn down. Burning sulfur rains on their houses. Their roots will dry up, and their branches will wither. All memory of their existence will fade from the earth. No one will remember their names. Wait a minute. No, I didn't. They will thrust from light into darkness, driven from the world. They will have neither children nor grandchildren, nor any survivor in the place where they live. People in the west are appalled at their fate. People in the east are horrified. They will say, this was the home of a wicked person, the place of one who rejected Yah. All right, y'all, that was our reading for today. That was Job 16, 17, and 18. All right, so let's get into it. Continuing on with Caesar's Messiah. Okay, you jumped over to YouTube. Okay, cool. That's better. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was YouTube on your phone. Not YouTube. Facebook on your phone. Nobody else said anything about the volume over here on Facebook. Nope. Josiah, shalom, shalom. Okay. Okay, y'all. So starting chapter 10 in Caesar's Messiah. Here we go. The authors of the New Testament. Josephus concludes Wars of the Jews with a series of passages that, I believe, lampoon the Apostle Paul, as well as create a puzzle that identifies the inventors of Christianity. It struck me as logical for the authors to have concluded their work with a passage that identifies them, quite in keeping with the spirit of malicious playfulness that runs through their entire composition. I present the first of these passages below. This passage describes a group of Sicarii who escaped into Egypt. Once there, they find themselves rebuked by Jews of reputation who inform the Romans of their presence in Egypt. Snitches. The Sicarii are captured and then tortured in an attempt to make them confessed that Caesar was their Lord, which they refused to do. Their children also refused to name Caesar for their Lord, in spite of their also being tortured. Thus, the passage clearly presents an unsolved problem for Titus: how to make the rebellious Jews call him Lord. So remember, when I know I keep repeating this, but just in case you forget, when it's referring to rebellious Jews, it's talking about those who would not turn away from Yah and begin to worship Caesar or Titus. Caesar, Titus, called himself a god, a lord, and he wanted the entire world to worship him and to bow down to him. But the Hebrews, Sakari, absolutely refused, which is why they were tortured and mutilated. Okay. All right. Thus, the passage clearly presents an unsolved problem for Titus: how to make the rebellious Jews call him Lord. Quote, when Masada was thus taken, a general left a garrison in the fortress to keep it, and he himself went away to Caesarea. For there were now no enemies left in the country, but it was all overthrown by so long a war. Yet did this war afford disturbances and dangerous disorders, even in places very far remote from Judea. For still it came to pass that many Jews were slain at Alexandria in Egypt. For as many of the Sakari as were able to fly thither out of the seditious wars in Judea were not content to have saved themselves, but must needs be undertaking to make new disturbances, and persuaded many of those that entertained them to assert their liberty, to esteem the Romans to be no better than themselves, and to look upon God as their only Lord and Master. But when part of the Jews of reputation opposed them, those the Saditi Jews, those who, the Jews of reputation, the learned ones. But when the part of the Jews of reputation opposed them, they slew some of them, and with the others they were very pressing in their exhortations to revolt from the Romans. But when the principal men of the Senate saw what madness they were come to, they thought it no longer safe for themselves to overlook them. So they got all the Jews together to an assembly and accused the madness of the Sakari, and demonstrated that they had been the authors of all evils that had come upon them. They said also that these men, now they were run away from Judea, having no sure hope of escaping, because as soon as ever they shall be known, they will be soon destroyed by the Romans. They come hither and fill us full of those calamities which belong to them, while we have not been partakers with them in any of their sins. Accordingly, they exhorted the multitude to have a care, lest they should be brought to destruction by their means, and to make their apology to the Romans for what had been done by delivering these men up to them, who, being thus appraised of the greatness of the danger they were in, complied with what was proposed, and ran with great violence upon the Sakari, and seized upon them. And indeed 600 of them were caught immediately. But as to all those that fled into Egypt, and the Egyptian thieves, it was not long ere they were caught also and brought back, whose courage, or whether we ought to call it madness or hardiness in their opinions, everybody was amazed at. For when all sorts of torments and vexations of their bodies that could be devised were made use of them, they could not get any one of them to comply so far as to confess, or seem to confess, that Caesar was their Lord, but they preserved their own opinion, in spite of all the distresses they were brought to, as if they received these torments and the fire itself, with the bodies insensible of pain, and with a soul that in a manner rejoiced under them. But what was most of all astonishing to the beholders was the courage of the children, for not one of these children was so far overcome by these torments as to name Caesar their Lord. So far does the strength of the courage of the soul prevail over the weakness of the body. End quote. Wars of the Jews. 7, 10, and 1. The most basic deception of Christianity is that by replacing the Jewish God and Son of God with a... Okay. It has the first God and Son of God in like capital letters, and then it's replacing it with the Son of God and a God in lowercase letters, showing you the difference between the two, right? Remember, the Son of God is Israel itself, right? Okay. The most basic deception of Christianity is that by replacing the Jewish God and Son of God with a lowercase Son of God and a lowercase God, who were in fact Roman emperors, it was possible to have followers of their new religion name Caesar for their Lord without their knowing it. The passage above explains why Titus invented Christianity. Even torture could not bring the Sicarii to call him Lord. Therefore, they had to be fooled into doing it. Right? Let me read that again. Even torture could not bring the Sicarii to call him Lord. Therefore, they had to be fooled into doing it. I.e., which is why they kept burning the Torah and rewriting the Torah, adding books, taking things away, and giving it back to them all jumbled up, and words change, things change, everything, right? Mom, shalom. Okay, get out.
No, this is the puppet.
Okay, I can see it. Okay, continuing with the passage. Quote.
Mom.
Listen, Isaiah, listen. No, get down. Go ask your dad. He got a bag of goodies on the bed, unless he just put them up. So he was eating chips and there was some stuff in there. Go ask Dad. Sorry, y'all. Continuing with the passage. Quote, now Lupus did then govern Alexandria, who presently sent Caesar word of this commotion, who having in suspicion the restless temper of the Jews for innovation, and being afraid lest they should get together again and persuade some others to join with them, gave orders to Lupus to demolish that Jewish temple which was in a region called Onion, and was in Egypt, which was built and had its denomination from the occasion following. Onias, Onias, the son of Simon, one of the Jewish high priests, fled from Antiochus, the king of Syria, when he made war with the Jews and came to Alexandria. And as Ptolemy received him very kindly on account of hatred to Antiochus, he assured him that if he would comply with his proposal, he would bring all the Jews to his assistance. And when the king agreed to do it so far as he was able, he desired him to give him leave to build a temple somewhere in Egypt and to worship God according to the customs of his own country. For that the Jews would then be so much readier to fight against Antiochus, who had laid waste the temple at Jerusalem, and that they would then come to him with greater goodwill, and that by granting them liberty of conscience, very many of them would come over to him. End quote. And that's reference 141. The passage continues with a description of the Jewish temple, which was in the region called Onion and was in Egypt. Josephus, in a digression, nonchalantly points out that the temple is the one envisioned 600 years previously by the prophet Isaiah. This is another example of Josephus manipulating Jewish prophecy to coincide with Titus's campaign. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay. Robert, switch to YouTube. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me get something playing real quick. 1 second. Okay. We got a lot of time left. I'm only on 23 minutes. All right, you know what? Let me just go ahead and get some honey real quick, soothe my throat. Okay. Okay. Okay, I just read this over. The passage continues with a description of the Jewish temple, which was in the region called Onion and was in Egypt. Josephus, in a digression, nonchalantly points out that the temple is the one envisioned 600 years previously by the prophet Isaiah. This is another example of Josephus's manipulating Jewish prophecy to coincide with Titus's campaign. Quote, so Ptolemy complied with his proposals and gave him a place 180 furlongs distant from Memphis. That nomos was called the nomos of Heliopolis. They got it spaced on Heliopolis, where Onias built a fortress and a temple not like to that at Jerusalem, but such as resembled a tower. He built it of large stones to the height of 60 cubits. He made the structure of the altar in imitation of that in our own country, and in like manner adorned with gifts, excepting the make. He made the structure of the altar in imitation of that in our own country, and in like manner adorned with gifts, excepting the make of the candlestick. For he did not make a candlestick, but had a single lamp hammered out of a piece of gold, which illuminated the place with its rays, and which he hung by a chain of gold. But the entire temple was encompassed with a wall of burnt brick, though it had gates of stone. The king also gave him a large country for a revenue in money, that both the priests might have a plentiful provision made for them, and that Yahuwah might have great abundance of what things were necessary for his worship. Yet did not Onias do this out of a sober disposition, but he had a mind to contend with the Jews at Jerusalem, and could not forget the indignation he had for being banished thence. Accordingly, he thought that by building this temple he should draw away a great number of them to himself, for there had been also a certain ancient prediction made by a prophet whose name was Isaiah about 600 years before, that this temple should be built by a man that was a Jew in Egypt. And this is the history of the building of that temple. End quote. Wars of the Jews 7, 10, and 3. Greetings, Mick. The prophecy that Josephus is referring to is contained in Isaiah chapter 19, verses 18 through 25. Josephus is clearly intending that the astute reader understand that the events he described in the passage demonstrates that Isaiah's prophecy had come to pass. In the passage above, Josephus describes a city of destruction in the land of Egypt, this being Alexandria, paralleling Isaiah's prophecy. Josephus, again, paralleling Isaiah, describes the temple as being pillar-shaped. Further, the political conditions of the region at the time can clearly be seen as those that were envisioned by Isaiah's prophecy, and that there was a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, which is to say that Israel was now a highway between Assyria and Egypt, and that it had become a geographical link within the Roman Empire. This idea is especially clear when one considers that the 3 Roman legions that participate in the destruction of Jerusalem were what is this? Okay, what is XV? I forget. But anyway, XV, Apollinaris legion from Alexandria, Egypt, and what is V? The fifth Macedonia, and the 10th Fretensis legion from Syria. If I screwed that up, I'm sorry. The first one was XV. What is that? 15? Okay. Thank you. Right. Okay. 10 and the X. Okay. I'm sorry. The X is 10. The V is 5. Okay, y'all. Okay. Okay. The XV, which is the 15th Apollonius Legion from Alexandria, Egypt, and the V, which is 5. The 5th Macedonia, and the X, which is the 10th. The 10th Free Tenses Legions from Syria. Thank you, Tiffany. You clearly paid attention to Roman numerals, or you just got them. I really don't care about them. I really don't. But I should in some way. So Josephus seems correct in his assertion that Isaiah's prophecy has come to pass with the events that he describes in the passage. The reader will notice, however, that Isaiah's prophecy is also messianic. It states that the Lord shall send a Savior who shall smite and heal. The passage also states that the Lord shall be known to Egypt, and that Israel shall be the Lord's inheritance. There cannot be any doubt about who Josephus indicates is the Savior that Isaiah's prophecy refers to. In fact, at this point in history, the only individual who could have been the Savior foreseen by Isaiah's prophecy is Titus. Only Titus could claim that he had Israel as an inheritance at this time. Quote, Caesar Titus gave order that all Judea should be exposed for sale, for he did not found any city there, but reserved the whole country for himself. End quote. Reference 142. Therefore, Josephus is disclosing that Titus is the Savior or Messiah by his unspoken contention that Isaiah's prophecy has come to pass. The prophecy of Isaiah that Josephus uses to identify Titus as the Savior is as follows. Quote, In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak to the In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan and swear to the Lord of hosts. One shall be called the city of destruction. In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. For they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors, and he shall send them a Savior, and a great one, and he shall deliver them. And the Lord shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians. What you doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. Go put it up. And the Lord shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know the Lord in that day, and shall do sacrifice and oblation. Yea, they shall vow a vow unto the Lord, and perform it. And the Lord shall smite Egypt. He shall smite and heal it, and they shall return even to the Lord, and he shall be entreated of them, and shall heal them. In that day shall there be a highway. In that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. In that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land, whom the Lord of hosts shall bless, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, mine inheritance. End quote. And that's Isaiah chapter 19, verses 18 through 25. The highway out of Egypt that Josephus is alluding to by conjuring up Isaiah's vision is a fulfillment of another New Testament prophecy, the highway for the Lord. This highway is foreseen by John the Baptist, who quotes another passage from Isaiah. Quote, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for the Lord. End quote. And that's found in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3. Though John the Baptist's statement regarding making a highway for the Lord has always been seen as envisioning Jesus, the passage from Isaiah that John is quoting from indicates that the highway will exist only after the warfare has ended. Therefore, the Lord that John is predicting could only be Titus. Quote, comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Speak kindly to Jerusalem and call out to her that her warfare has ended, that her iniquity has been removed, that she has received of Yahuwah's hand double for all her sins. The voice of the one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for the Lord. End quote. That's Isaiah chapter 40, verses 1 through 3. Shalom. Josephus' narration then moves on, and in a sequence parallel to the one in the New Testament, introduces a Paul or Paulinus at the same point that the New Testament introduces its Paul. This Paul, like his counterpart in the New Testament, has an impact on Judaism. Excuse me. Josephus states that he made the Jewish temple entirely inaccessible. I regard the passage describing Paulinus as an obvious spoof on the Apostle Paul. Quote, and now Lupus, the governor of Alexandria, upon the receipt of Caesar's letter, came to the temple and carried out of it some of the donations dedicated thereto, and shut up the temple itself. And as Lupus died a little afterward, Paulinus succeeded him. This man left none of those donations there, and threatened the priests severely if they did not bring them all out, nor did he permit any who were desirous of worshiping God there so much as to come near the whole sacred place. But when he had shut up the gates, he made it entirely inaccessible, insomuch that there remained no longer the least footsteps of any divine worship that had been in that place. Now the duration of the time from the building of this temple till it was shut up again was 343 years. End quote. And that's the Wars of the Jews, 7:10 and 433 through 436. Okay. So now it's this chart. It has the parallel passages about Paul. So I'm going to read both sides for you. Okay. So the parallel passage about Paul written in Josephus is in Wars of the Jews, chapter 7. Wars of the Jews, page 7, 10, 434, and 435. And it says, afterward, Paulinus succeeded him. This man left none of those donations there, and threatened the priests severely if they did not bring them all out, nor did he permit any who were desirous of worshiping God there so much as to come near the whole sacred place. But when he had shut up the gates, he made it entirely inaccessible. Okay, in the parallel passage about Paul in the book of Acts, the first one is in Acts 24:17, which says, I came to bring donations. And then the second one that he's using is in Acts 21, verse 28 through 30. And it says, this is the man who is teaching everywhere against our people, our law, and this place. They seized Paul and dragged him out of the temple, and immediately the doors were shut. Right? Okay, so. Hey, chill, Josh. So if you look at this and you read it, you can see that, yeah, is this the same person, or it's a story that's almost word for word, right? They're doing the same thing, but it's two different people, right? Okay. The spoof of Paul is interesting in that it brings up the question of when the different pieces of the New Testament were written. While it is possible that there were earlier versions of the New Testament, at some point the four Gospels were unified into their present satiric whole. Hey, chill, y'all. Someone with editorial control manipulated the New Testament and Wars of the Jews into alignment with one another. In this sense, all of the four Gospels must have been written at the same time. Another question this analysis raises is, who maintained control over the finished product? The authors, having placed veiled revelations as to the religion's real origin in the four Gospels, had to devise some method to assure that these revelations would not be edited out by later redactors. For example, if one of the statements of fact in the different versions of Jesus' resurrection were changed or omitted, then the combined story would lose its logic, and the same problem would exist for the other half of this satirical system, the works of Josephus. Josephus concludes Wars of the Jews with the strange tale of a Jonathan, one of the Sicarii, and a Catullus, a Roman governor, who makes a false accusation against Josephus, as well as a Bernice and an Alexander for starting Jonathan's innovation. Innovation is the word Josephus uses to describe the religious sect of the Sicarii because it was a new version or innovation of Judaism. In effect, the three were falsely accused of making someone create a new Judaic sect. Jonathan was clearly a messianic individual who, like Jesus, prevailed with the poor. Jonathan was clearly a messianic individual who, like Jesus, prevailed with the poor by showing them signs and apparitions, because Jonathan was the name of one of the 5 sons of Matthias Maccabee. This is another example of the connection that Josephus draws between that family and the Sicarii. There is also a satiric logic to Josephus's dealing with Jonathan at this point in Wars of the Jews, as he has already dealt with the other 4 sons of Matthias Maccabee, Eleazar, Simon, Judas, and John. He now concludes his work with the destruction of the last one, Jonathan. Quote, and this is coming from Book 7, Chapter 11, concerning Jonathan, one of the Sicarii that stirred up a sedition in Cyrene and was a false accuser of the innocent. And this is a good little excerpt that was taken out. Okay. Yes. There's still a couple of things that we need to get done to, but hold them thoughts, calm down. Okay. All right. Okay. Quote, and now did the madness of the Sicarii, like a disease, reach as far as the cities of Cyrene, for one Jonathan, a vile person, and by trade a weaver, came thither and prevailed with no small number of the poorer sort to give him ear. He also led them into the desert, upon promising them that he would show them signs and apparitions. And as for the other Jews of Cyrene, he concealed this knavery from them and put tricks upon them. But those of the greatest dignity among them informed Catullus, the governor of the Libyan Pentapolis, of his march into the desert and of the preparations he made for it. Guys, close that door. Dad is about to leave and go somewhere. He'll be back. Close it. No, he's so happy. The charger been Fix. You still got to get a couple things put on it. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. They wanted to watch Dad drive away in the truck. He got some things ready.
I wanted to go in.
Well, you did it. Okay, make sure that door is locked. Okay. As for the other Jews of Cyrene, he concealed his knavery from them and put tricks upon them, but those of the greatest dignity among them informed Calatus, the governor of the Libyan Pentapolis, of his march into the desert and of the preparations he made for it. So he sent out after him both horsemen and footmen, and easily overcame them, because they were unarmed men. Of these many were slain in the fight, but some were taken alive and brought to Catullus. As for Jonathan, the head of this plot, he fled away at that time, but upon a great and very diligent search, which was made all the country over for him, he was at last taken. And when he was brought to Calatus, he devised a way whereby both escaped punishment, himself, and afforded an occasion to Calatus of doing much mischief. For he falsely accused the richest men among the Jews, and said that they had put him upon what he did. Now Catullus, I keep messing this man's name up. Catullus easily admitted of these his calumnies, and aggravated matters greatly, and made tragical exclamations that he might also be supposed to have had a hand in the finishing of the Jewish war. But what was still harder, he did not only give a too easy belief to his stories, but he taught the Sicarii to accuse men falsely. He bid this Jonathan, therefore, to name one Alexander, a Jew with whom he had formerly had a quarrel, and openly professed that he hated him. He also got him to name his wife Bernice as concerned with him. These two Catullus ordered to be slain in the first place. Nay, after them, he caused all the rich and wealthy Jews to be slain, being no fewer in all than 3,000. This he thought he might do safely, because he confiscated their effects and added them to Caesar's revenues. Nay, indeed, lest any Jews that lived elsewhere should convict him of his villainy, he extended his false accusations further, and persuaded Jonathan and certain others that were caught with him to bring an accusation of attempts for the innovation against the Jews that were of the best character, both at Alexandria and at Rome. One of these, against whom this treacherous accusation was laid, was Josephus, the writer of these books. However, this plot, thus contrived by Catullus, did not succeed according to his hopes, for though he came himself to Rome, and brought Jonathan and his companions along with him in bonds, and thought he should have had no further inquisition made to those lies that were forged under his government or by his means, yet did Vespasian suspect the manner, and made an inquiry how far it was true. Guys, these are the longest sentences I've ever seen in my life. Like, they just run on sentences being broken up by commas and colons and semicolons, and I wouldn't necessarily write like this. We're gonna do sentences. Some things I would, but anyway, I digress. Yet did Vespasian suspect the matter, and made an inquiry how far it was true. And when he understood that the accusation laid against the Jews was an unjust one, he cleared them of the crimes charged upon them, and this on the account of Titus's concern about the matter, and brought a deserved punishment upon Jonathan, for he was the first tormented, and then burnt alive. But as to Catullus, the emperors were so gentle to him that he underwent no severe condemnation at this time. Yet was it not long before he fell into a complicated and almost incurable distemper, and died miserably. He was not only afflicted in body, but the distemper in his mind was more heavy upon him than the other. For he was terribly disturbed, and continually cried out that he saw the ghosts of those whom he had slain standing before him. Whereupon he was not able to contain himself, but leaped out of his bed, as if both tormentors and fire were brought to him. Thus his distemper grew still a great deal worse and worse continually, and his very entrails were so corroded that they fell out of his body, and in that condition he died. Thus he became as great an instance of divine providence as ever was, and demonstrated that God punishes wicked men. End quote. And that's reference 143. The passage creates a puzzle that uses the name switching technique found in the Decius Mundus puzzle, which will be analyzed in the next chapter, to identify the creators of Christianity. They are the individuals who were falsely accused by Catullus, Josephus, Bernice, and Alexander. The inventors of Christianity have signed their work, so to speak, in the correct place at the end of their story. I believe that the Bernice and the Alexander in the passage are easily identified as Titus's mistress Bernice and either Marcus Alexander, who actually was Bernice's husband but who died before the Jewish War, or his brother Tiberius Alexander, Titus's Jewish chief of staff during the siege of Jerusalem. These individuals had both the technical knowledge of Judaism and the ethical perspective required to create Christianity. The New Testament, continuing its parallels with wars of the Jews, mentions in Acts both in Alexander, reference 144, believed by most scholars to actually be Tiberius Alexander, and Bernice. To recognize that a puzzle exists, the reader must, once again, recognize parallels, in this case, that Catullus and Judas, the identifier of Jesus, share a number of attributes. The most obvious parallel between the two is that Catullus dies in the same improbable manner, unknown to medical science, as Judas. That is, his very entrails fell out of his body. This is an exact parallel to the death of Judas. Quote, and falling headlong, he burst asunder in the midst, and all his bowels gushed out. End quote. That's reference 145. The description of Judas's bowels gushing out does not occur in the Gospels, but in Acts. The event is in the New Testament at this point to maintain its parallel with the events in Wars of the Jews. The parallel gut spillers, use that today in today's title, gut spillers, is catchy. The parallel gut spillers create another prophecy in Jesus' ministry that is fulfilled in Titus's campaign. Judas and Catullus are also parallels in both that their accusations involve a messianic individual, and neither is true. Josephus, Bernice, and Alexander certainly did not initiate a religion or innovation led by a Messiah-like member of the Sicarii. They would have established just the opposite kind of innovation. Jesus is, of course, famous for having been innocent. He was certainly not the type of Sicarii military leader that Pontius Pilate would have needed to crucify. In fact, Jesus was the exact opposite of such an individual. The technique of establishing that there is a puzzle needing to be solved is the same one used throughout the New Testament and the Wars of the Jews. That is, parallels. As with the Odysseus Mundus puzzle in the following chapter, unusual parallels between characters invite the reader to seek an explanation. But to solve the puzzle that the parallels create, a reader must step out of the surface narrative and into another perspective. The reader has to relate to the text from a broad rather than a narrow perspective and has to be prepared to think the unthinkable, to seek a solution that is outside of the flow of information provided by the surface narration. I would note that the satirical system that unites the New Testament and Wars of the Jews can be seen as an exercise in mind expansion, and that to solve the puzzle, the reader must learn to think outside the box, so to speak. The authors were making the point that the narrow focus the Sakari zealots maintained regarding only a few scrolls was a limited and inaccurate mode of thought. The authors seemed to be suggesting that only by seeing all sides of a problem can the truth be known. Therefore, it is possible that they designed the New Testament as a tool to intellectually uplift the Messianic rebels. If such was the author's intention, it only adds to the incredible nature of the work, which is perhaps more amazing when seen as a secular psychological device rather than as a world historical religious work. Let me read that whole sentence again. Okay. I'll read the last two. Therefore, it is possible that that they designed the New Testament as a tool to intellectually uplift the Messianic rebels. If such was the author's intention, it only adds to the incredible nature of the work, which is perhaps more amazing when seen as a secular psychological device rather than as a world historical religious work. Okay. Now here's also another little four square chart, right? One side is false, one side is true. All right. So the false side, Judas falsely accuses Jesus of being the Messiah of the Sakari, gut spiller. True. Judas truly accuses Jonathan of being the Messiah of the Sakari, unthinkable. Okay, so all right, what we just read, he said, in order to really get it and understand it, you have to be willing to step outside the surface reading. Step outside the box. So right here, if you had the other if you was reading it along with Wars of the Jews and some of the other works where all of this is kind of split up to tell you a bigger story, you got to think outside of the box. You can't just read the New Testament like, this is it. Otherwise, you will never get it, right? But you have to be willing. And most Christians aren't willing to even look into it, right? They just want to, okay, this is surface. This is it. No. Okay, because just the surface, they get it wrong. When you think outside the box and begin to consider other possible avenues, you get closer to the truth, right? Okay, so let me read this again. So the false side is Judas falsely accuses Jesus of being the Messiah of the Sakari gut spiller. The true side, Judas truly accuses Jonathan of being the Messiah of the Sakari, unthinkable. The next false is Catalyst falsely accuses Bernice, Alexander, and Josephus of putting up Jonathan as a false Messiah, gut spiller. The true side, Catalyst truly accuses Bernice, Alexander, and Josephus of putting up Jesus as a false Messiah, unthinkable, right? So the true side is what is unthinkable, right? It's like, what? Like I said, they don't even venture out to think. And when they venture out, the unthinkable, they realize is actually the truth, right? Which is why those things right there, Jesus being set up as a false Messiah is actually true, but that is unthinkable. That's something what we don't even our minds don't even go in that direction. But that's what the truth is, right? Okay. The puzzle and this is literally the end of the chapter. I'll be done in like maybe 3 minutes. Okay. And this was a pretty short chapter. The puzzle that explains the parallels between Judas and Catalyst is designed to turn the two stories from tales that relate what is false into tales that state what is true. I'll read it again. The puzzle that explains the parallels between Judas and Catalyst is designed to turn the two stories from tales that relate what is false into tales that state what is true. To solve the puzzle, the reader must simply do as Decius Mundus recommends in the following chapter and value not this business of names. To create the truth, simply switch the names of the Messiahs. Thus, had Judas named Jonathan as the Messiah who needed to be crucified, and Catalyst had accused Josephus, Bernice, and Alexander of having put Jesus up to what he did, both passages would be transformed into the truth. Jonathan was a Sicarii messianic leader who, from the perspective of the Romans, deserved to be crucified, and Jesus had been put up to what he did, that is to say, was created by Josephus, Bernice, and Alexander. The fact that the Alexander who participated in the plot is described as Bernice's husband helps us to see the subtle point, because the Alexander who was Bernice's husband was dead before the war broke out. It is not Josephus, Bernice, and her late husband who are being identified here. It is the families of these individuals who authored the Gospels, the Flavians, Herods, and Alexanders. I would again note that the authors of the New Testament seem to be stating that one could not know the truth unless one considers more than one book or scroll, that is, unless one reads intertextually. In this case, Acts and Wars of the Jews create the parallels. I suspect that the authors are being critical of the Sicarii zealots who believed that they could know the truth from a very limited set of documents. The authors are presenting a real-life example of inaccuracies that occur whenever readers cannot look beyond a single narrative in front of them. Josephus concludes Wars of the Jews with the following paragraph. He was insistent that he wrote the truth after what manner this war of the Romans with the Jews was managed. Quote, and here we shall put an end to this our history, wherein we formally promise to deliver the same with all accuracy to such as should be desirous of understanding after what manner this war of the Romans with the Jews was managed, of which history, how good the style is, must be left to the determination of the readers. But as for its agreement with the facts, I shall not scruple to say, and that boldly the truth hath been what I have alone aimed at through its entire composition. End quote. That's reference 146. And this is the last little short paragraph. Josephus, like the Apostle Paul, reminds the reader over and over that he is writing the truth. Perhaps this is one of the reasons the authors of the New Testament and the works of Josephus create the elaborate system by which their authorship of Christianity could be known. They did not wish those in the future who would one day discover the truth to think of them as liars. Well, that's my thoughts about them now. But the more I read through this, let me say y'all, I used to be extremely angry about this, right? But then I started thinking about, like I said before, you gotta give them credit Like, and although they usurped the entire world with the genius of the pen and paper and telling stories just right and able to create series, so to speak, and chapters and novels and sequences, break them up, present them to you like I like using Marvel because it's really good. You got the different characters in Marvel. They each have their own story, and then you have ones that come together like Endgame and the Avengers that bring some of these separate characters together in a bigger plot, and all the little individual pieces seem to fit together in a big puzzle. They were like the modern day, they were like the Marvel of their time with the geniusness of how they created the New Testament and how the other works are broken up like Wars of the Jews and you got Antiquities and some of the other things. Like I said, I used to be extremely pissed about this at first. But the more I just calm myself down and read and inform myself on how they did this, I'm like, they were freaking geniuses. I was like, if I had the mind to write like this, and I love reading and writing, but if I had the mind to think about this, they brought together, their whole family did this, right? The Flavians, Alexanders, and who, the Herods, right? They was able to sit together. They had a major think tank going on, right? Sitting around the round table. Everybody got their different scripts and stories. Okay, you take this part, you take this part, you take this part. I got this. But this is the overall plot that we're going for, right? So, but we need the individual stories and figure out some way to build it all up. We're gonna come back together. We're gonna meet a couple times a week, and we're gonna go through and make sure everything is being put together the same way. So we got little clues here that reference clues here and here, and I'm just like, this is friggin' genius. I was like, this is friggin' genius. And now, yes, the pen is mightier than a sword. So now when I read it, I get so excited to uncover truths and stuff, right? Look, and I said all that. They left their signature throughout all their writings and at the end. And I like it right here. Listen, he said, Josephus, like the Apostle Paul, reminds the reader over and over that he is writing the truth. Perhaps this is one of the reasons the authors of the New Testament and the works of Josephus create the elaborate system by which their authorship of Christianity could be known. Listen, they did not wish those in the future, us, who would one day discover the truth, to think of them as liars, right? Now, I'm like, these lines, such and such, has got us out here worshiping false God they created, all this stuff, and that was my whole thought as I'm coming into all this. These liars, blah, 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 and I calm down and read, I'm like, yo, they were freaking geniuses. They were telling you the truth along with lies at the same time, but only for those who would actually take the time and not just surface read and just kind of go with the masses of sheep that's heading off the cliff into this whole blinder of religion. You would really, if you take time and read it and pull together things, you would really, how can I say this? You would give your mind a really good exercise, right? And develop its thinking capabilities and its reasoning capabilities and its ability to think logically. Slow down, wait a minute, I missed something. Like you would give your mind a really good workout, and that's another whole level of education, right? Somebody who can think critically and think through things and bring details along with you and kind of, it's almost like a Rubik's Cube. You got to remember certain patterns and things. It's really an education all in itself, and it's completely genius. I mean, they were devious. They pissed me off still. I can't stand them. But what they did was completely genius, right? Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to say, right? So you got to give writers props where it's due. But they left you clues all along the way to let you know, hey, this is not true. Clearly, when you take time and you're not being led by your emotions, like, okay, let's think through this logically. It really helps you it helps you to develop I don't know, me. It helped me to develop a love for the ability to be able to actually use your mind appropriately and develop it and to think clearly, right? Only people like this, only these type of people make it to the end of Squid Game. Only people like this is able to think like this and pull things together, are able to make it out of the Hunger Games, right? Or to be like the last one staying alive, the divergent, right? Like these are the ones that's able to think throughout it. In the midst of you starting off, you real rough. Everything is scary. You making all kinds of mistakes. So you sit back. Wait a minute. And you sit and you start thinking. You think about everything all the way through, and it takes time, but it's a real it's a very enlightening experience for those who can appreciate. For let me see, how can I say it? For those who can appreciate growth, but that's not the word I want. Those who can appreciate the time that it takes to develop yourself. And I think sometimes we lose that a lot because we're in like the information age. We want it now. Like we got to have it now, and we're impatient. There are some things that take time to develop, just like growing from a sperm into a full blown human being, right? We're still that sperm that came from our father. We're just a more developed form of the sperm, right? You know, everybody know what the sperm looks like under a microscope. We're still that in the physical 3D realm where you can see us. If you pull back our skin, all you see is the brain, the head of the sperm. You look at a sperm and you put you put a full blown human being, even each size of a human being from infant, adolescent. What is it? Infant, I guess toddler, adolescent, going the same thing. Then you got like the the child age, then the preteens, teens, adult, all the way. If you put it beside a sperm, the actual sperm that you see under the microscope, and you look at the growth process as it grows, we're still that same sperm, but we're more developed. And you look at it, the head of the sperm is our brain, and all the veins and stuff that hang down from it. It's just developing and growing out. It's more mature and it's developed, and it gets a hard shell covering over this to protect the brain or the tip of the sperm, the head of the sperm. Our cranial encloses around that. We get skeletal forms that protects the the most sensitive parts, the veins, the nerves, and all of those things. You know, we just in anybody who can appreciate the time that it takes to develop a perfect masterpiece. Only those who I'm trying to say something. We got to learn how to be patient. We got to calm down. I'm trying to put together what I say. I'm trying to explain this the right way. If we would kind of just step back from all the conveniences and everything and just kind of take a breath, we can grow better. We can have a more enriching lifestyle upon the earth as we realize things take time to develop. We have to be able to comprehend. We have to be able to analyze. We have to be able to assimilate. It takes time, right? We have to practice, error, get it right, perfect it, move on to the next one, and build, right? It's a good thing Yahuwah created our bodies to do its thing on its own when we're not really controlling it. We just really need to feed it, clean it, give it some sunshine, and it grows. But all the internal things we don't control, that they are operating by themselves individually, right? So people that can understand that can appreciate, once you get over the pistivity of the foolery and the strong delusion that you were putting in, you can step back and see and really appreciate life and growth and the time that it takes to perfect something, right? Or to become like an expert in your area. People don't become experts in subjects or like me in taxes. It takes time, right? It takes time. I have to learn the tax law. I have to learn through preparing taxes, submitting them, messing stuff up, then learning how to go back. IRS rejected it. Okay, what was wrong? Let's fix the corrections. Okay, When you fail at something, it doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means your plan or what you did is not complete. It just means you need to work out some more details. Try to look at failure as that way. Rejection doesn't mean that you're a failure. It means that whatever it is you did, your plan wasn't completely sound. You still have some details you need to work out. All right? Let's work out these details. Go at it again, right? And when it works, you worked out the details and you can grow and build that way, right? So guys, I'm really loving this. I'm really loving this. Once you, like I said, once you get over the festivity of being fooled, you can appreciate the mental exercise and the development of your mind to be able to think critically, to comprehend things and just, and then you can take that education that you learn from this and you can apply it in other areas of your life. I.e., listen, just like, let me show you some real life stuff we're going through now. Okay, let me show you that. An hour and 14 minutes, okay, let me probably take about 5 minutes. Okay, so me and my husband, we're in our 40s. Now, being an early married couple, if you gotta go, y'all go. You know what, maybe I should just let's do the blessing real quick. Let's do the blessing just in case you gotta go. Then I'll explain this real quick for you. It's kind of cool. Okay, let's do the blessing. And then, okay, so it is Thursday, October the 7th, 2021, day 272 of year through reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 3-year consecutive day count, day 941. We read Job 16, 17, and 18, and we read Caesar's Messiah, all of chapter 10, right? And that started at page 265, and we ended at page 277, right? Okay, so let's do the blessing, just in case you got to go to work, because you want Caesar's time. Let's see, blessing. And the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22, excuse me, through 27, right? Okay. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise you shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Okay, so real quick. So back to the ability to appreciate growth and the time that it takes to grow, right? So me and my husband, we're in our 40s now, right? So I'm 42, he's 43. And when you're a young married couple, you got a whole lot of details to work out, right? Okay, hold on. You will end it in a minute. Let me finish telling my little story real quick. So a lot of people, they don't make it to the end of marriage where, they grow old together and they die and they go to the grave. Sometimes one before the other, whatever. Or whatever circumstance, right? And people who tend to get divorced, they weren't able to come together and work out those details that they kept running up against, right? So it takes time. It takes patience, right? And a lot of time when you run into roadblocks, people think, well, I'm a failure. There's just no way that we're going to make this work, right? And they allow the frustration to cloud their eyes, piss them off, and it's like, it's better to end it, right? But that's a level that you're going to have to grow past. So either you're going to work it out with your current spouse, or you're going to try and you're going to run into them same issues, maybe different type of scenario, but it's the same principle that you need to work out together, right? So, okay, so I said all that to say, it wasn't till now, to like in our 40s, where we began to appreciate time, right? Not necessarily time, but appreciate that it takes time to develop certain things. Now, we still run into issues and problems and issues in marriage and stuff where it's frustrated. You go to your corner, I go to my corner. We'll revisit this later. We need to calm down. We fight, or we're going to end it all today, right? So we have those times. But, in school, or, well, let's use this. Okay, so say you in college, you have to write a paper, or maybe you got a business and you have to write a business plan. And you have to do projections, right? So, okay, what's your immediate plans, your short term goals, 6 months to a year? What's your long term goals, 3 to 5 years and beyond, right? And I'm like, what the crap? How we? Okay, we do this and this is how we thought when we first started our business. All right, what to get money for this and a business plan? Well, we don't really know where we're gonna be at in that time. We'll see when we get there, right? We'll just be flying by the seat of our pants, right? So, but I got it done because I knew how to do it. So I'm like, okay, let me fluff some stuff up. Okay, what would we like to see? What would we like? So we put it in there, right? But it wasn't really until now. I'm explaining to you why. Where this really, had we really taken that more seriously than we did, instead of just trying to do it to get what we wanted, if we had to really sit down and thought about it and how it's really going to affect our life and all the kids that we didn't plan on having, but we're glad we had them, we wouldn't change it for the world. There are some things that we definitely would have done differently, right? Even me being a tax professional doing taxes, it wasn't really to this year where, although I understand tax planning and stuff, it really didn't kick in the value of tax planning and planning things out. That really didn't kick into this year, because now this is a time where earlier on I'm learning about it. I'm not necessarily at that vein in life where I've experienced it yet, but now we're at that place, okay, we're more mature, we need to be a little more stable, we got more kids, we done put a child through college, and another one, he's right here, like planning money and everything, right? It didn't hit right until like these last couple years, like, man, had we planned a couple years before, we wouldn't be running into this issue. So let me share, be honest with y'all, share something with y'all. Okay, so me and my husband, although we have a business and we done had that business running since 2008, and we make good money for our business, right? We haven't purchased our first home, right? Simply because when we starting off, we're young, and the background my husband come from and the background I come from, well, that really doesn't matter, but I'm going to give you the gist of it. Okay, so the business we have, we learned early about big sums of money, getting big sums of money, and how to handle big sums of money earlier. Now, when big sums of money came to us early, we like party, time, shopping. We didn't think about buying no house, clothes, taking kids shopping all the time. Anytime you see our kids, they had the newest Nikes, all this, all that. That's why mine said, money, we can take care of our kids, right? It was just one and then two at the time. So we were shopping all the time, eating out all the time, blowing money. I told y'all about the story. If you go back a few months back when I was doing it, and we got this big contract with I can't give names. We got this big contract from a big corporate client, right? So we had like that. I'm trying to do this without. I'm trying not to be too specific. I have to be careful. We had just like big sums of money. We were able to invoice big sums of money every single week with our invoices. We were able to pull money at any given time for payroll. It's like it was like a open, what you need, boom, 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 write it, we got it, right? So had we had, and this is no, to parents or anything, because you can't teach something that you don't necessarily know, and situations are different, right? So we have our own experiences, and we are to take those experiences, learn, grow, and teach our children so they can learn from our mistakes earlier, so they can learn how to be more financial savvy earlier in life rather than later, to where we learning this stuff in our 30s and our 40s. They're still toddlers and like in teenagers, where we can teach them now so they can skip a lot of the hardships that we went through, right? So with handling those big sums of money, if we were thinking ahead, now I'm not saying that the information didn't come to us, because people, when you start getting big sums of money, people show up, salesmen show up out the woodworks. Somehow it's like they know, let's go sell them this, right? So insurance, people, you should have insurance, planning ahead, this and this and that. You get it, and you can kind of prepare for the college fund. And it's not just insurance, you'll be able to borrow against that, because if the child goes to college, approved and qualified expenses, you will be able to use the life insurance policy and do all this. And that's like, that's too many years down the road. We ain't thinking about that, right? And oh, how we kick ourselves in the butt today for not taking advantage of that. But now even the last couple of days, we said was like, man, this would be here, and this would be here had we done that. Because we can sit back and we can call out every time somebody came to us, presented something to us, but our mind was not there. We like spending money, renting cars, going here, going there, eating out all the time, shopping, babe, what you want, buying jewelry, running up accounts, and we paid it off. But that money we could have did those same things if we had actually just did the right thing first. Kind of delayed our gratification just a little bit, order the funds appropriately so where we can still get these things, but make sure we're doing business first, right? If we had to put those things into place earlier, we would probably be living in our custom built home right now in our 40s. But now it's like, okay, now all this information, all the hard knocks things and the hard headed and the dumb decisions and poor decisions we made with our money, it's like now, although we're still going and we got like a big break on some things, it's like now we have to start that now in our 40s. So now we're trying to build our first home or get our first home that's actually in our name, right? At first, like, we just pay people rent. We ain't got to worry about no big mortgage and stuff over here. You know how much that is? My student loans is like $150,000, right? So just mine, my husband's is just a little bit smaller. But just I was like, we don't need, why? We just pay for everything cash. Like, that's logical for some people if you're not thinking long term. That's good. If you short term, that's what you do, okay. But long term thinking about these things, you would have set yourself up to where, let me tell you, by us having that cash mindset, not saying that cash is wrong, but improperly planning and not putting certain things in order cost us majorly when our children got older. Elijah, when he went to college, if we had a plan earlier, did some of these things, and it's little dollars, pennies on the dollars here and there as they're growing young, we wouldn't have had to fork out $6,000 and $10,000 just to keep him in school, or this needs to be paid by this day. Like, what? Everything we paid for Elijah, we had to pay for in lump sums in cash out of our pocket, right? Now, had we taken advantage of the wisdom of older people who came to us earlier when we were early married, set this up now, you don't have to worry about lump sums, and it'll begin to multiply if you put it into this type of account. Oh, yeah, whatever, boom, right? Learned that the hard way with Elijah, right? Even some stuff with Jeremiah, although Jeremiah hasn't gone off to college yet, and he's not going to go. He's going to do like a little trade school, something now. We forget all them fluff and foo-foo class. You don't need all that crap. You know, what are you going to do? Focus on your trade. That's the way to go. You get a trade, develop your trade, become an expert in your trade and what you do, right? Don't need all the extra stuff unless you're going to become a teacher or engineer. Then you need them classes. Then it won't be foo-foo class. Get it? You get it? Right, okay. So, but the whole point of that is there is, for those who can appreciate the time that it takes to develop the mind and develop understanding, will be the ones who will be able to really be solid and develop their lives and actually separate themselves from those who find themselves in a strong delusion, right? I'm trying to tie all that together. So now we have 5 more kids. Jeremiah just turned 18, and the 4 under him, we're now just getting into those things. Like, we've been good and solid. We've had life insurance for our family. For the I ain't putting our business out here, but I'm going to share with y'all because, you know, I know a lot of people going through the same thing. We should have had life insurance years ago. But we've only really had life insurance for our family for the last 2 years. Consistently paying on it. Ain't missed a beat, right? Because we see the value in planning ahead. Thinking ahead and actually working it out, right? So, and another thing, being self-employed and having your own business. I'm not sure if any of y'all on this boat, but just in case you are, I'm going to give you a little bit of wisdom, right? If you haven't purchased your first home, this is why it's like, why is it taking so freaking long? And this kind of ties in with my tax profession. Like, I understood this, but not really for real, because I was doing it for other people, not really thinking about the implications and proper tax planning. Tax planning is a real thing, and you should take advantage of it, especially if you haven't purchased your first home, or you have a big purchase or something you want to do, even a big family vacation, right? By us being self-employed, right? And they tell you you're self-employed, although we're incorporated, we have to pay ourselves. We're employees of our company. When we first started off, we were just kind of being subcontractors of our company and paying ourselves as contractors, right? And we take care of the taxes on the personal end. But what happens is, here's the thing: business owners, they promote to you, because people don't want to deal with the IRS. They don't want to pay the IRS. They don't want to pay all these taxes. I just realized that there is a perfect balance, a checks and balance with paying taxes and being able to create wealth and build generational wealth, right? People get mad at rich people and the loopholes they can take advantage of, or they ain't paid taxes. Well, if you do it, if you play the game right, you wouldn't have to pay taxes either. The tax loopholes and stuff are created for those who help make the government, or the bigger business, the corporation of the United States. The United States is a government, but it's also a business. It's incorporated. Each state is its own entity, is its own business, right? So the states is like a big parent company. The United States is the parent company. Each individual states is the partnering companies or the child companies under the parent company of the United States, even down to the townships. Some towns aren't incorporated, but cities are incorporated, right? They are businesses. IRS is the accounting firm and the bookkeeper for the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, right? The IMF is the bookkeeper. The IRS is the tax preparers for the corporation of the United States, right? And you got the employees, the people, the states, the individual businesses down to our level. It's like a whole trickle down effect. We are literally like smaller United States operating. We're all businesses, but we're parents, so we have to be accountable to the parent company. It just kind of goes up the ranks and goes down the ranks, right? Now, they give you perks, just like if you work for an employer, you got perks for working for their company cars, stuff you can completely write off, reimbursements and stuff. It's the same thing when you own a business. Now, I said all that to keep you on the same track of where we found ourselves in trouble. Because you get all these different write-offs for real estate and cars, Section 179, depreciation, amortization and stuff, where you can not pay taxes or reduce your tax liability all the way down to zero, and you don't have to pay taxes to the IRS. That's completely legal. You can take advantage of all those loopholes. But if you want to make a bigger purchase, or if you, as the small business owner, starting a business to buy a family home for your family, or build a home for your family and create wealth for your children, you can't necessarily, you have to plan it out. You can't necessarily always take all those deductions that are 100% legally allowed to you, right? Where you reduce your tax liability down to zero. I'm taking deduction for this, make sure, and I ain't got to pay taxes, right? You kind of break even. Some may actually get a refund. But here's where you get in trouble if you do that, if you want to purchase a home. And this is what we found out the hard way. And what we've been working ourselves out of it, and we had to plan ahead these last couple years to be able to purchase a home. Because when you do this, like, remember, it's a perfect checks and balances where all the banks, the financial institutions, they all work and talk together. So when you file your taxes and you're a business owner and you've taken all the deductions that you were legally able to, right? It's completely legal. Now, you reduce your tax liability, but what that also does, it reduces your income down to almost zero, or to an amount that wouldn't qualify for you for a home. So all the profit that our company made, we decided to take as many deductions as we absolutely could. Now, we knew ahead of time, okay, we can write this off, make sure we do this. So we're taking all them deductions, everything. But when we go purchase a house, Mr. and Miss Murphy, y'all income look like y'all make $20,000. You can't afford a house. What? Look at that. It was like, well, yeah, I see what you made. I see that. But you took all the deductions and it reduces your income. So that's what I forgot about. While doing this, I'm like, holy crap. So either way, it's going to cost you either way. It's either going to cost you time or it's going to cost you money. But if you plan ahead, you can plan it smartly where you can save on both ends. You can save heartache, frustration, and pain by planning ahead, right? The ability to just calm down and be patient and not be so fast, convenient, I want it now, but actually think this through, right? You got time to make sure your credit is good. You can get the lowest rate possible. May not have to put down a big down payment or whatever, or if you choose to and you got the money you want to, you can, so you can get the points, you can do that. But what happened is, when we took all the deductions, Miss and Miss Murphy, y'all don't make enough. Yes, the heck we do. No, because this is what happened. This is what we're looking at, this right here. After you take the deductions, this is what you said you got left. I'm surprised you're able to pay for where you're living at now. How many kids y'all got? Well, wait a minute. No, see, this is how this works together. And see, here's the thing. That's why you need to have a good financial education and have people around you. Or if you don't grow up with it, you need to seek it out to get a good financial education. If you don't want to do that, invest in Robert Kiyosaki's books. This is how we learn all of this, right? If you don't get it from anywhere else, Robert Kiyosaki will teach you all of this from beginning to end, even to investing and preparing things for your children, right? So, now, I know I said it was going to take 5 minutes. Stop. So, what we had to do, the ability, like I said, is now just sinking in what it means to really to be able to appreciate time and how things grow and develop, right? So in Christianity, you always got you on edge. Jesus come back soon. You always on the edge. And you can never think clearly, right? That's the deception of it all, to keep you on edge. And if you're always on edge all the time, not able to think clearly, you can't plan and do anything with your life. Thereby, Rome is able to snatch everything you have, land that you could have had, land that you had and you done lost, because you're on edge, not properly preparing, right? You pay more in taxes because you don't understand. Really, the tax law is created for those who are wise and who want to build wealth and generational wealth and build businesses, right? So if you plan ahead, if you think ahead of time, okay, what my husband and I should have did with our business, if we understood earlier, okay, well, we want to purchase a home or we want to build a home here, okay, how much do we want to spend, first of all? $300,000? $400,000? Okay. How much is the bank going to be looking for? What do we need to show that we made to qualify for this if we're not going to pay? Because we ain't paying for it. You conserve your cash. Use credit. Learn how to use other people's money. That's the name of the game. Although cash is king, yeah, in some things, but really, nowadays, that's changed. Credit is really king, and using other people's money and conserving your cash, learning how to convert your cash to credit so you can, and along with that comes you need good credit people. So work on your credit if you're not doing that, right? So what we should have did that, okay. So we know here we're going to do this. So we need 2 good solid years. Sometime being self-employed business owners, they want to look at 3, right? Because some people like to fool around with their taxes and falsify documents and stuff. So they're going to look at 3, and they're going to take the average of either 2 years or the 3 years to see what you qualify for. So if you need at least $100,000 to qualify for a $300,000 home, you need to show consecutively for the last 2, preferably I would tell you 3 years. If you're self-employed or have your own business, you need to show your income at $100,000. Pay the taxes to the IRS. As those years go, use estimated payments so you're not paying big chunks. Break it up into quarters if you need to, right? Because remember, think about it, you're planning ahead. You're going to be building a house or purchasing a home in 2 to 3 years. Let's plan now. So we got this, boom. Income is not a problem. You show it on your forms. It can be verified and corroborated with the bank when they pull the 4506Ts. To check the IRS to see if you just falsified documents, like all the people that got in trouble for them PPP loans, falsifying them tax documents, which is easily done, but they didn't count on the fact that the banks was going to go verify that with the IRS. Was these forms really filed with you? And if they were filed with you, where's proof of payment? Did they actually pay this? And that's where they screwed up. You know you just screwed up, right? You didn't know they was going to go pull your tax forms from the IRS. You know you just screwed up, right? People is in jail for dumbness, for not thinking ahead, not preparing, for being financially illiterate. Being financially illiterate will keep you in poverty for the rest of your life and have you missing all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to use that example to share with y'all the why it's so important. I know that I said a lot, but it ties in to Caesar's Messiah and how this last paragraph of what he said, right? I'll read it again. Where he said, hold on. Glad I did it because I didn't stick my thing in here. I talked about the genius of them being able to putting all this together, but they left clues along the way so people wouldn't look at them as liars, right? It said, Josephus, like the Apostle Paul, reminds the reader over and over that he is writing the truth. Perhaps this is one of the reasons the authors of the New Testament and the works of Josephus create the elaborate system by which their authorship of Christianity could be known. They did not wish those in the future who would one day discover the truth to think of them as liars, right? So in essence, although they created this elaborate story, they left you clues along the way for the astute reader, for those who would think and realize what was going on along the way, that it wasn't really, well, it was to fool you, but for those who understood and had the ability to think, right, that understood and could appreciate the ability of time and thinking things through, that they would know, they would see the truth, and this would be a good brain exercise, and they would get a good chuckle, but in the process, they would have grown themselves up more mentally in their ability to think through rationally, critically, and be able to, get out of things, right, or do things appropriately. And it's those people who we find accelerating in life and actually getting to the point where they solve the issue of security and living. Because once you solve the money issue in your life, you're not worried about, okay, how I'm going to live. Now you can really focus on, what am I here for? What is my purpose? What do I want to do to impact the world? What legacy do I want to leave? But a lot of people never make it to that point, right? They're constantly, from the time they start working to the time they go to the grave, they're constantly trying to solve the money issue on how just to keep themselves and their family fed, keep clothes on our back, roof over our head, safe, right? It's always hand to mouth, and they go to the grave like that. They never solve the money issue because they don't have the patience to sit back and take the time and learn the things they need to learn to put themselves on the right path in life. Remember, the earth is a lab, y'all. It is a lab, and I can see these schools of training thought in every aspect of life now. Like even in like the last couple of years, even like the last couple of weeks, even my thinking about all of this has completely expanded in another way. Even if you do find yourself born into a family that's steeped in religion, okay, there's a training path if you're in religion. And I just so happen to find myself in that particular training path, right? If you're able to step back and be able to realize and appreciate what's going on, you learn how to separate the good from bad, or separate truth from error, and begin to pull wisdom out of every situation that you find yourself in. So the principles are the same all across the world, no matter where you find yourself at, no matter what color, it's the same method of training, underlying principles, methods of training, but they're different obstacle courses, different scenarios, different things, different variables at play. So everybody has their own personal experience going through this matrix, right? And your own personal vantage point of how to make it through, right? So literally coming to earth and your experiences is like a school to develop the spirit and the soul that prepares us when we leave out of this realm and go on to the next place, right?
Get
in here. Go put that up. Stop. No, stop. Okay, y'all. That's it. I'm done. I know that's kind of long-winded, but I wanted to share. I was trying to tie that in with Josephus' family. And don't scream.
Again.
Okay, I saw that he took.
Look.
Yes, Bella. It didn't go anywhere. It just popped off the screen. Okay. So I hope that made sense, y'all. I know that I think I kind of rambled a little, but I was trying to tie all that in on the reason why and why you should appreciate time and why it actually takes time to develop some things. Your thinking, your life, why you should prepare ahead of time so you don't run into issues. Oh, I didn't finish that part. Run into issues because we didn't prepare ahead of time. Now we get frustrated because, oh, you don't make enough. Now we got to go back. Either we have to amend, but some banks, although the IRS will allow you to amend, legally you got 3 years to amend your taxes, pay it. Some banks won't accept amended tax returns for the purchase of homes because to them it looks shady. Even though the IRS says, yes, you can do it, but because of some of the shenanigans other people's pulled, some banks have just made it this is their policy. They don't accept amended returns for purchases of houses, at least not all the years, because some people will go back and amend all the years, and that looks shady, especially if you can't provide proof that you paid the tax bill, i.e. canceled checks that shows that the Department of the Treasury has cashed this and you paid the taxes on these amended returns, right? Or they can't pull the 45T. That all those things can't be corroborated. They don't want to deal with it. That's why some banks, they just made it their policy, we don't accept amended returns. And if they accept amended return, they won't accept all years. They'll accept 1 year, right? Maybe like the furthest year back. They'll accept that, right? And then they'll go through doing their calculations because they want to make sure that you're going to be able to pay them back. And even though some businesses, after they do that, they bundle up the loans and the packages with a bunch of other men and sell them all, it tracks back to the loan officer that gave you the loan. So everything is this big intertwining web where everything talks to one another. And although we see shenanigans where it don't seem like the government is talking to each other, everything really connects on a financial level, right? You just got people arguing about stuff, trying to get things done. But if you understand that, life will be so much more easier to get through. You can handle some things better. You can properly prepare for things. Don't have to worry about frustration. We living in a 3-bedroom place and we got 18 kids and everybody, you don't have to go through those frustrations if you just learn how to slow down. Although we live in the information age and the convenience age, use them for their strengths and not for everyday, all the time things, right? Do things the manual way and use the conveniences when you're short on time or you need to speed something up. You see? And that way, it'll keep you solid. It'll keep you from being pulled out of your element. It'll keep salespeople from playing on you. You spending more money or spending needless money. You will be able to think and you will be in control, right? Nobody else will control and pull money from your pockets and from your family. You control it. And you teach your children and they learn how to control it, right? And they will never become a part of that strong delusion where it extracts money from them, right? Okay, so that's it. I'm done. That's kind of like a little bit of financial tidbit, but I was trying to tie it into Caesar's Messiah, right? The ability to appreciate the shenanigans and being able to write such an elaborate story and weave things together. No, stop. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I gotta go. I'll see y'all tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Hey, Isaiah, stop. Eastern Standard Time.
You can go first.
Hold on, I ain't even see. Hold on. Let me see. What student loan? What happened to your GI Bill? Trina. Oh, can I answer this real quick? If y'all gotta go, go.
Mom.
Okay. Look. So you.
Mommy.
Wait a minute, Bella. Clearly,
I
you're talking
didn't
about.
do the blessing.
I did the blessing already. Okay, so Trina said, what? Student loan, what happened to your GI Bill? Okay, so I'm prior military, and I had a GI Bill that pays for my education. See, let me tell you what happens. With the GI Bill, right, you get GI Bill, and you get some other little perks and stuff that they'll give you. With the GI Bill, here's how it's supposed to work. Stop, Isaiah. When you go to college, Isaiah said stop. Now go upstairs. Go upstairs. You stomp up my stairs, I promise to Bob I'm going to come after you. I'm sorry, y'all. But they be trying my gangster sometimes. Okay, let me show you how this works. And if I had known this earlier, I would have used my GI Bill appropriately, right? Because I lack financial education in some of these things, we have to deal with things now based on the poor decisions we made back then. So with the military, you get the Montgomery GI Bill, which is money for college, any kind of training that you get, right? And it's a great deal of money, and it pays for all your schooling, right? And depending on what you go to school for, it could possibly pay for everything or maybe about all of it, right? And if you were there during a time where they actually, the girls could over, where when I was about to get out, where they actually allowed us to take advantage of the increase in the GI Bill, I would have done that. Now let me tell you what screwed me up. I had them taking out, yes, go ahead, college fund. Although when they were taking it, I was like, well, maybe later in life when I get a little older, I'll probably want to go to college. Because before I joined the military, I did a semester. I was like, bump this. This ain't for me. I just graduated high school. I ain't trying to go college. I need to do something else. And remember, James and I had already had our first child. So I was thinking about making money, not going to college, right? So my whole outlook, at first, I said I was going to college, but because being fast out there in the streets and we had a baby, had to adjust my plan. So I decided I was going to work, right? My husband was still in college. He was playing basketball. So I didn't screw it up, but I mean, you'll understand in a second. So I joined the military after a year of graduating school, did a semester of college. I mean, almost, yeah, I would say a year. So, because I was active duty when I was 19, graduated when I was 18, did a semester, then started working. I realized, had a child, my little Paramount job working at the movie theater wasn't going to cut it, right? My mom had already had 4 kids, right? And I'm older, I have a child, live in the house. I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a burden on my mom. I'm going to go get my own place, right? So I'm just like, I'm going to get out here and do all this, not thinking about money and what things are going to cost. So I went and got my own apartment, kept it for the little short, less than a year period of time because I joined the military. And when I stepped out on my own, I realized, wait a minute, I need more money, right? So jumped into the military. They gave me the GI Bill. Now the GI Bill works. You go apply for college and whatever it is. Every month, as you begin to use your GI Bill, you fill out your paperwork and stuff. The VA begins to distribute the money for your GI Bill. Now, they don't pay the school directly. They send the money to the service member, direct deposit every single month. And had I taken advantage of the time where we could increase our GI Bill, which I think was an extra, I don't remember how much was it. I think they was going to take out like an extra, I want to say $200 to $400 a month for, and I was like, nope, I keep that money in my pocket. But had I would have been thinking ahead, I would have done that, right? $600, okay, Trina, $600. It was an extra $600, and I didn't want to do it, right? This is where lack of financial education gets you in trouble early in life, right? And it kind of defines your life for a while till you get it together. So I didn't do it. And when I did start going to school and they started direct depositing the money, by this time we had 2 children now, right? I had gotten out of the military and we were no longer staying in base housing, to where when you stay in base housing, it automatically comes, I had it set up in allotment, so it was automatically coming out, not worrying about anything. But when I got out, all the allotment stopped, and I now was responsible for, me and my husband, we were responsible for taking care of our bills and stuff, right? You paid it at the end of your enlistment. I wish I would have did it, right? So what happened was, when I got out the military, we got a place. It's expensive to live in Virginia anyway, right? So we got a place. Our rent was $950 a month. My GI Bill, I started going to ECPI, working on my business administration degree. They were depositing, giving me $1,000 a month, right? Now, because of my husband's background and some of the things he did, it took him a while to get a job. We needed a place to stay. right? GI Bill coming in faithfully, right? I'm getting the money, we're paying bills with the GI Bill instead of paying the school, which was okay because the school would then what the school does, they give you student loans, right? When you do that, you apply for the GI Bill, they give you student loans. And so when you get the money for the GI Bill, you're supposed to in turn take that GI money bill, the GI the GI Bill, take it and pay your student loans back, right? They give you student loans while you're waiting for your money to come, so you can get going to school, get you started right away. When your money comes, just take it, pay the bill off, and boom. And that would have paid all the school. It's a perfect circle, right? I didn't do that. I just kept getting the student loans, racking up student debt while I was taking my Montgomery GI Bill, filling in the gaps so we could live and we could eat, right? So that's how I use my GI Bill, living expenses. I got my degree, got associates, got my bachelor's, and I didn't finish my master's. I'm still 8 classes away from my master's, but we had to take a break because we had more children and more responsibilities, and the business was growing. So I never kind of got back to that, although I have still been furthering my education in like the tax field in our business, right? So it's more specific and honed in, right? So which is better, right? So Trina, that's what happened to my GI Bill, living expenses and life. So that's why my student loans, they're actually over $150,000, right? Because of what I was going to school for, and some of the classes that I was taking for financial things. That's why, yeah. Okay, she said, oh, okay, I didn't go to school until 2015. It's difficult now. They pay the school and pay you. Yeah, so back in the day before all those updates, the money was just flowing to us, which was a blessing at the time. It really was. But if I had a better understanding, we would have been better prepared, and we wouldn't be trying to play catch up now in our 40s. We should be doing more traveling and stuff now and doing things. It's almost not necessarily just getting started, but to where we should be at this point, had we planned properly and appropriately. It's like we're just starting to where like when you're in your 20s or just getting married, where you should already got a good wealth of information that your parents help you build as you grew, got things in order, and starting off early, marriage life 20s, and building from there and going. It's like we're just starting that, because it's like school of hard knocks, hard-headed, not wanting to listen to anybody, doing it on our own, so that's why now in our 40s, we really now appreciate the time. We can appreciate time and what it means to plan and plan ahead and look ahead. And so now although we have insurances on everybody now, things like that. We don't be like, oh, duck the insurance people, don't come to my house. No. You'll realize when you get old, especially when you develop a family, on how it's really beneficial to you. And you won't have to put out big chunks of cash. And some people never make it to that point. They may not have a business where they can just write $10,000 checks to keep your butt in school, like for Eliza and stuff, right? So, for Trina, I'm glad you said that. I'm like, man, I don't know, because I was calling. I was like, look, I do want to finish this and get my master's. I'm gonna see if I can switch to the forever, but I use all of what I have for all that money that I had that they gave me for school. I used it for living expenses, while we was trying to work out the details of our life. But I'm gonna call them and ask them about that forever, the forever GI Bill. Yeah, so I hope y'all learned something from our mistakes. If y'all encounter some of those places, or you have children, if you can take advantage of some stuff now, get educated on it. Do it now. Prepare your children, right? Because the wise leave an inheritance to their children's children, not to my children, but to my grandchildren. That's how much wealth we should be able to accumulate and build and pass down. And some people, they are able to do it for more than just their children's children. They're set it up to where they're billionaires, and they can do it for multiple generations because they've trained their children. They've trained their children and pulled them away from the hustle and bustle, convenience lifestyle of the world, and taught them the value of sitting down, preparing going through your financial statements, making sure you're keeping your name good. Your name is your credit in the world of commerce, right? They look at you. Oh, when you walk into the bank, they know you by name. How you doing, Mr. and Mrs. Murphy? Whereas security, we got 2 bums that just came in here. It makes a difference, y'all. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. And all it takes time and patience. And you go through and you learn it, and you learn and you teach your family, and you begin to operate in it. So the vocational rate, I'm gonna write that down, Trina. Vocational rehab loan. And I just kind of put it to the back burner, you know, Trina, because of the business growing and trying to keep all those things in order, and learning what I thought I knew that I really didn't know when the IRS. They like to come to the door, knock, and anybody ever sat in an IRS audit where they show up like we had them come to our house like. I do tax. I'm like some people like the IRS. Oh my God, they think it's the end of the world. They think it's a jail sentence. But I actually like talking to them now. At first it was like that, but now it's like, okay, we need to do an audit of your books. They literally. We had about 3 years ago. We had an IRS agent. I got to hear my phone about to die. Stop, Bella. We had an IRS agent come to They flew in from Pennsylvania from their office. They assigned a rep to us. I'm like, I'm hoping we ain't getting in trouble. Would you stop? They flew in an agent, and they literally came and sat in our office, and we were, sat in our office. It was nerve-wracking, but it was, I would say the first 30 minutes was like nerve-wracking. Because like, oh my gosh, the IRS agent, they done showed up again. They trying to keep you honest, right? And thank y'all. Granted, we done made some mistakes. But we tried to be as honest as we possibly could. And I'm glad I keep really good records, right? They sit there, okay, pull out everything you got. I mean, like, they like when you go down to darn DFACS and social services, they need to know everything about your life. Your mama, your daddy, your mama's mama. Where does she live? What's her address? Is she still living? She dead? Where's her grave site? Okay, what was her social security number? Like, seriously, that's how it was. It was nerve-wracking, y'all. Mom. But wait, what's her name, boy? Josh. There's so many of y'all. Exactly. But once you realize that they are humans too, and they're just doing their job, and if you get a good one, they'll calm you down. Just take a breather, Mr. and Mrs. Murphy. Sweating under the arms and stuff. Cut on the fan. Turn the AC up. But we need to see everything. They pull in bank statements, records, payroll statements for the last, we want to see the 3 years, bring it all out. We have this long conference table in our office in the conference area, right? So I got bank statements. They sell all banks. They sell personal and business. They wanted the children's bank accounts too. I had to pull the children's bank accounts. All of these, you should have seen it. They were in there a little over 4 hours, right? Now I know how to do a face-to-face IRS audit. It's not so scary, right? They just make sure when you're doing business, if you're doing business, keep track of all your records. If you're not doing print it, you don't have to print everything out, but at least save it to where if you need to print it out, right? Because some things that have you print out, other things, give us a digital copy, and they're taking copies of everything. Everything you pulling out, we're going through everything. He had his highlighters and notes. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, Father, first of all, although I can prepare taxes and I can do bookkeeping and accounting, I'm glad I decided to get a third party to do our own. Now, I'll do people's, but we'll have somebody else to do our own because that's just an extra protection for us so it don't look like we cook our books, right? You don't want to do that. So, I'm done, y'all. That's it. So that's why Trina. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Trina. Okay, let me real quick. I know Facebook about to die. Okay, somebody had a question over here on YouTube. Okay. Endangered species record. Shalom. Latrice. I'm saying the middle name. Kim. 2 hours. Shalom. Okay. Mariah. Shalom, sis. You're welcome, Slow Show. All right, y'all. Okay, so that's it. Let's get out of here. I'm over 2 hours today, and I did a lot of rambling. But for those that hung on, thanks. Go to work, y'all. Go have some fun today. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Breeze, come in it, Pootie. Thanks, Gail. Lisa, I saw your comment. Come on. And why y'all got those? Go put them up. I told y'all we not putting those out until we leave, huh? Go.
Yeah, perfect.
Finish.
Come.